After my trip to Rome, Johann Staupitz, my vicar, confessor, and confidant, sent me to the University of Wittenberg, where I was to study theology as well as to teach. Now, I was taught the theology of the age, which stated that salvation is a prize that had to be won, and partly by efforts here on earth. That the church held a storehouse of God's grace, which they distributed out, but only through the 7 sacraments, such as baptism, confession, attending Mass, and a few others. Now, even I at this point believed that within every man was a spark of goodness, even if they were reprobate. But they had to do their best, and God would grant favor. But they had to do their best, and a man's best is immeasurable. Well, I completed my doctorate, and after I did, I returned to interpret the Psalter anew. I was confident that I was a better scholar now that I had lectured at the university on Paul's epistles to the Romans, the Ephesians, and the ones to the Hebrews. But up to this point, one phrase in Romans 1:17 had stood in my way of understanding God's grace. How I hated the phrase. In it, the righteousness of God is revealed. For I had been taught to understand the term, the righteousness of God, spoke of a God who is righteous, but condemns the unrighteous sinner. But at last, meditating day and night, and by the mercy of God, I gave heed to the context of the words. In it, that is, the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed, for it is written, He who through faith is righteous shall live. Then I began to understand the phrase, the righteousness of God, spoke more fully not just of God's righteousness, but the righteousness of those who through a gift of God were righteous, and the gift was namely faith. Why, I felt as if I had been entirely born again, and I had entered paradise through gates wide open. Why, the Scripture had revealed an entirely new side of itself to me. And I embraced that sweetest word with a love as great as the loathing with which I had hated the term, the righteousness of God. And I began to understand that the law of God was a mirror which reflected what every human being was in need of grace.